Ladies and gentlemen, in this video, we'll discuss the short-term glimmer of hope for the bulls and the potential for that glimmer of hope to progress into an actual recovery. But then we'll also dive into the cyclical structure for Bitcoin, doing a well-being check on the cycle. How do we look and what do we need to see? Would Bitcoin benefit from a drop is the main question we're answering today. And also, how likely is that drop to occur? Currently, it's looking quite likely. Ladies and gentlemen, let's get into it. Before we get into the charts today, let's check out the VIP group on Telegram. On Telegram, we run a VIP trading group. We trade altcoins 3 to 4 times a week, and we have a 24/7 group chat with 120 members. So if you want to get altcoin trading signals, make some money on altcoins, and also discuss the market whenever you want with members of this community, you can do so on Telegram. Click on the description link below. It will take you to this group on the screen here. It also shows you the trading results to show you how successful we've been in there. We've got a 78% win rate, which is absolutely exceptional. So check it out. Without further ado, let's get into it today, guys. I want to quickly tell you right off the bat that the 4-year cycle is intact, right? But if we trust the 4-year cycle, which according to my YouTube poll, most people do, right? 76% of you said that you believe Bitcoin will see a traditional cycle, right? With a 4-year cycle, beginning after the halving. So 76% of you, the majority of my viewers think, right? 76%. So 3 out of 4 viewers think that we will see a traditional cycle as per 4-year cycle, right? And I will just say, for the 24% of you who don't think that, that's fine. You're allowed to think that. But I hope you understand that you're making a prediction or you're making an assumption without any evidence to back it up, right? So it is possible to think something without evidence, but you cannot act like that view is logically consistent, right? It's not logical to believe something without evidence, but you can have theories on things. It's completely fine to disagree that we'll see a regular 4-year cycle, right? I don't think it's certain that we'll see a regular 4-year cycle, but in disagreeing with it, you have to admit that you have no evidence for it, and so your position is blind speculation. So this is where we get into that, whole separate topic there. But overall, we have a very solidly back 4-year cycle. We have 76% of my audience agreeing we will see a traditional 4-year cycle. And we have the 4-year cycle on the screen right here, with the bull run starting after the halving, which is the white line on the screen, and the bull run topping in late next year. So the bull run starts after the halving, which means we haven't started the bull run yet. 76% of you think we'll see a traditional 4-year cycle, which means 76% of you should agree that we have not seen the start of a traditional bull run yet, because we have not seen the halving yet, which means that Bitcoin is overvalued. It's overpriced at this point. It should not go higher at this point. It should drop downwards. Now, we've spoke about this so many times in the past, but I'll continue talking about it today. I will bring up new topics as I go through with this, like, for example, this triangle on the screen here, which we'll bring up in a second, but delete that yellow line. It's not relevant anymore. What we need to discuss today is this, right? Obviously, everyone knows that Bitcoin has been in a vicious upwards trend since September. It recently broke into a medium-term downwards trend. It broke into that downwards trend after we broke the 40K low. All right, we broke that low. We saw a lower low right here. And right now, we have no reason to believe that this is anything other than a lower high, okay? So Bitcoin is in a bearish trend. That doesn't mean it has to be bearish. It doesn't mean it has to go downwards, but it certainly means that is the direction right now. We do have a pattern right now that I need you guys to watch. It is this triangle formation on the hourly chart. It's shown here on the daily chart. Let's zoom in and look at it on the hourly chart. Triangle formation. That is a bullish formation, believe it or not. It is a bullish pennant formation, and so a lot of bulls are speculating about that break to the upside. Look, I will say that bullish formations do generally break to the upside, but I will also say that it doesn't really matter. What matters to me is this. What matters to me is whether Bitcoin closes a weekly candle above 43.8K or not. And this is something I've repeated like a broken record for weeks now. The fact of the matter is, it's actually very simple if you look at it like this, right? And I want people to really be breaking this down to a simplistic level, because I think overcomplication is what gets you screwed up in this market to a certain extent. Trends are very easy to identify. What has the trend been? The trend was upwards trend. Until recently, we broke into a downwards trend. We saw a lower low on support. We're in a period of the cycle where we've seen a dramatic gain on Bitcoin, a gain of 97% without any proper correction. Yeah, we've seen a 21% correction, but overall, as we've discussed in multiple videos recently, we have seen now the longest time on Bitcoin without a 25% or more correction since 2011. Right? We haven't seen a 25% correction or more for the longest time since 2011, when Bitcoin was less than $1 in value. The fact of the matter is, this 21% correction, in my opinion, and the opinion of most respected analysts that I see, is not enough, right? Cyclically speaking, we've moved too fast, right? We know for a fact now, okay, and we've discussed this multiple times, We know for a fact, let's bring up a fresh chart so I can show you what I'm talking about. Let's see if I have my 4-year cycle chart. I might have just gotten rid of it there. Oh, here we go. We know for a fact that Bitcoin is not really meant to be breaking all-time highs until November or December this year. That's a fact. That's as per 4-year cycle, as per a developing trend within 4-year cycle. It takes 1,100 days for Bitcoin from all-time high to break the prior all-time high. Developing trend, but it is still real, right? And so with that said, we're at 49K, all right? We're at 49K in January. If we go upwards from here, we could be at 49K again within this month. And then if we break 49K, what do we have? If we break 49K, Bitcoin doesn't really have much left to break. It only has to break like 1 or 2 more levels, and then all of a sudden we're at all-time highs. If Bitcoin breaks 49K, we could be at all-time highs within a month or two, right? And so this is where I get into the main point. We are moving too fast here. Bitcoin cannot break 49K within this month and remain cyclical structure, okay? We cannot maintain regular, healthy 4-year cycle if we break 49K this month, in my opinion. And so 76% of you would be forced to deviate from your cyclical predictions if Bitcoin was to break 49K this month, right? So this is really what we're getting into now. Bitcoin has moved too fast. It's moved upwards. It's seen an impulse, okay? It's moved too fast, triggered by the ETF news. It's rejected from this level and it's come downwards. And now we are in an active downwards trend and people are flipping back bullish before we have any reason to do so. Realistically, Bitcoin has to break 49K to flip back bullish from a daily chart because it needs to break back into an upwards trend as well. But at a bare minimum, an absolute bare minimum, Bitcoin needs to be seeing a weekly candle close above 43.8K, which would break the weekly candle highs that we've made here and enter a weekly chart upwards trend. Because right now we are seeing consolidation at the top of a massive move, and that's not generally a good sign. Or it can be a good sign in certain scenarios, but in this one it's certainly not given the cyclical basis. On top of this, we've printed a pretty bearish monthly, in fact, one of the most bearish monthly candles you can get, really. A bearish doji candle at the top of a massive upwards trend, which is a sign of reversal. If we do see a red month here, that red month will form an evening star candlestick formation, which would put us downwards for a couple of months at least on Bitcoin, and then from there we can start to go upwards again, right? I do believe the bearish targets are still valid. I do believe the bearish targets are still active. What are the bearish targets, right? So let me just explain one more time. Bitcoin is in an active downwards trend. It doesn't have to continue downwards, but cyclically speaking, it is likely to continue downwards. Given that we are in a downwards trend, we need to consider the downside targets. What are the downside targets? The downside targets are ranging from 35K to as low as 28K. Now, I think 28K is a ridiculously low target, but it is something that I'm seeing, so I have to bring it up, right? Because I'm honest in that regard. But what I will say is 35K is completely plausible in my opinion, and potentially even lower. What is the basis of me coming to those conclusions? Well, I'll show you right now. And this is amongst other things, by the way. We have I guess you could say it's a trend or at least a cyclical structure that forms on Bitcoin in every cycle. You can see the red line on the screen is the peak of each dead cat bounce, right? Each bull market's dead cat bounce. In fact, let's go to a monthly chart so you can see it a little bit clearer here. Right, so the red line is the peak of each bull market's dead cat bounce, roughly at least. You can see with the yellow line is the bull market support for each of these cycles. And what you'll notice is that in the cycle that follows, or before the halving, after the bear market, we come back up to that red line that was previously the dead cat bounce peak of the bear market. We reject from that red line and we come most of the way down, if not all the way down, to the yellow line, right? So in 2016, we came almost all the way down to the yellow line. In 2019, we came about 3/4 of the way down. COVID does not count, of course, because it's a black swan event, so we came about 3/4 of the way down. If we were to do that again, we've rejected from the red line, which is a good sign that we're following that trend, at least roughly. And if we were to go, for example, 3/4 of the way down to the yellow line, that would take us to 35K. If we were to go the whole way down, that would take us to something like 32K. Both of those targets are backed up by horizontal support zones. And 32K, of course, is a major support zone. In fact, one of the biggest support zones Bitcoin has in its entire chart history. Right, so anywhere from 35K to 32K as per this chart. And we also have lower targets at 28K. As you can see, we have a Fibonacci retracement from the highs in 2017 to the lows in 2018, and the same thing from 2021 to 2022. You can see what we've done is we've rejected from this light green level, and you can, or this teal level, I should say. We've come right back down to the red level and bottomed out, not only on the red level, but also on the Gaussian channel center line. If we were to do that again, we've seen the rejection, we would come down and we would bottom out around 28K, maybe 30K, right? So you have these targets ranging from, 28K, give or take, to around 35K. And these targets, of course, not all of them have to be reached. In fact, as I said, I don't think 28K will be reached. I think we're looking at that 30 to 35K level, but I can't lie to you, it is there on the screen. All those targets are valid unless we see something that proves them invalid. At the moment, the only thing that I can see, or the first step in the right direction of proving them invalid, the first step in the right direction of invalidating those bearish targets, invalidating the bearish trend, would be a weekly candle close above 43.8K, which we failed. Not only did we fail, but we rejected from that level and then closed below it. So I'm going to be quite frank with you right now. I don't think Bitcoin looks that great. I think there is a glimmer of hope in regards to, there is hope, right? In regards to the triangle forming right here, in regards to a potential inverted head and shoulders pattern. But beyond those two things, which are both short-term things, I don't think Bitcoin is not looking too great here. And I don't really know anyone that does either. Now, I've heard, obviously, the bullish counter-argument is that there's no bearish narrative, and there is not really no bearish narrative right now. That's something we have to consider, and it's something that I am considering, but I also need to trust the charts, right? I understand there's not really much of a bearish narrative right now that would cause people to sell. The halving is very soon. The bull market cyclically is very soon. We've just seen an ETF decision. There's ETF buying consistently going on. There's a lot of bullish narratives, not much bearish narratives. There's not really much of a reason for people to sell, but at the end of the day, that's just speculation about what I think there is. What I know is that I know how trends work. I know how trends work, and I know that right now we're in a downwards trend. And I know that in order for us to actually be in an okay position on TA, we need to be breaking 43.8K in the weekly candle, which we have not done. In fact, we've failed to do on 4 separate occasions now. We saw rejection on a weekly candle close, rejection on a weekly candle wick, rejection on a close, rejection on a wick. 4 separate occasions of rejecting from that level. I also know that cyclically speaking, Bitcoin could very much handle and would benefit probably from a significant correction, a correction downwards to, 35K, a correction downwards to these lower levels. They would be very healthy, 16% from where we are currently. That would reset the cycle quite nicely. If you zoom out on Bitcoin, you can see who says that it would be natural, right, in a 4-year cycle basis for Bitcoin to continue upwards right here. Who says that, right? That's simply not true. I mean, Bitcoin is quite frankly exhausted from every metric you can look at. If we did see Bitcoin go downwards to something like 35K, potentially lower, but something like 35K, let's say, we could see the altcoin market drop quite significantly. Altcoin market, for example, is already down around 15 to 16%. It actually held up quite well in comparison to Bitcoin in this drop. So if Bitcoin dropped another, what did I say? If Bitcoin dropped, say, to 35K, for example, right? Just an example, another 16%. Considering altcoins held up better than Bitcoin in the drop before, let's just say it drops the same amount as Bitcoin. We can see the altcoin market cap retrace to something like 600 million, which would line up with the 500 to 600 million support. We could see a 15 to 30% drop in altcoins. It's hard to say exactly, especially at this time of the cycle with Bitcoin dominance. Bitcoin dominance, for the most part, would have seen the vast majority of its upwards moves. I think for the most part, we're entering a transition period where altcoins are going to start to gain strength against Bitcoin. Not gain strength, but at least even the playing field. I think that perhaps there's one more pump on Bitcoin dominance, but for the most part, I think that it's time for Bitcoin to start settling down. And perhaps after this move around the halving, like we generally see, we'll see altcoins start to pick up. And then specifically at the end of this year, we'll see altcoins really enter a altcoin season, right? But as of right now, Bitcoin is still the dominant force in the market. But that is shifting. That is shifting. And so drops on Bitcoin are not as brutal for altcoins anymore like they would have been in 2022 and last year. So I don't think that if we saw a drop, it'd be anything to worry about cyclically. I'd only really start to worry about it cyclically if we drop below something like 30K. Drop below that, you'd be a bit worried because that is where we see the major support level, the yellow line on the screen here. That is the major support. I know I said I have a target at 28, but I think, as I said, 28 is a little bit pessimistic. I'd be surprised if we went that low, but specifically if we went below 28K, well then, in my opinion, the 4-year cycle's over. I don't see how Bitcoin could recover from something like that, but a drop from here to something healthy like that would be, as I said, healthy, beneficial for Bitcoin. Right now, we do need to just focus on the immediate short term. The short term, in reality, I know I've been very bearish leaning in this video. I need to give you guys a reality check on the longer term. The short term does not look too bad. Okay, that's the reality. Bullish pennant formation, potential inverted head and shoulders. We could go upwards in the short term. Okay, but it wouldn't mean anything. And this is what I said before, I'll say it again. It would not mean anything unless we made actual progress on the medium term and long term. Short-term movements are all fun and games, but they don't mean much unless you make progress in the macro, right? Macro progress would come at 43.8K weekly candle close. which would be in 6 days and 21 hours if we were to see it. So a short-term move now would need to sustain 6 days above its next major resistance level, which is not an easy task, but we will keep an eye on it. At this point in time, the bearish targets are still active. Bitcoin could still benefit from a correction. Cyclically speaking, we are still a little bit overvalued. We'll have to track and monitor how this goes. What would I personally like to see? I would like to see Bitcoin drop, right? And people are going to say, oh, you're biased then. Well, I don't think it's really biased. I think this is black and white, to be quite frank with you. And I think people who say, oh, well, then the majority is always wrong, it has to go upwards. First of all, we can't measure the majority. That's the simple reality. And second of all, the majority of people is not the majority of capital. So that argument is obsolete. At the end of the day, the only thing we can really trust is the charts. We can't trust what we think the narratives are. We can trust the charts. And we've explained exactly what we need to be seeing from the charts. 43.8k weekly candle close would be progress in the right direction. Until then, bearish targets are still active. Guys, I'm not going to keep beating the same horse as much as I have been over the last few days here. I will be making videos on different topics. Leave any video recommendations you want me to do. You want me to see, what questions you want me to ask about Bitcoin, what questions you want me to answer about Bitcoin. Write them all in the comment section. I'll read them and perhaps I'll put them in the next video. Guys, thanks for watching. I hope you enjoyed. Check out the Bitget and Bingx exchanges. Bingx is global non-KYC. Very low trading fees, never been hacked before. The same can be said about Bitget. Bitget, of course, is global KYC minus the USA, with Bingx being global non-KYC, as I just said. You can find the information and referral links with 15% trading fee discounts and thousands of dollars in rewards in the description below for either of these exchanges. So if you need a new exchange, those are the ones you can pick, and using my referral link helps out the channel and helps yourself as well by getting those discounts, so check them out. Finally, Crypto Academy, become a trader 10-unit course. This will teach you everything you need to know about trading, sparing basically a handful of things. I tell you right now, 90 to 95% of the things I use on a daily basis in analyzing the markets and trading view, I use that is taught in this course, okay? Indicators, market patterns, technical analysis, what is a financial market? What is Bitcoin? How does it work? Market psychology. How do I find trades? What is my risk management strategies? Stuff like that. It's all in this course for a very cheap price in comparison to our competition. Check out the website. The email address is there for contact. Guys, thanks for watching. I hope you enjoyed, and I'll catch you tomorrow.